What's up, y'all? Brandon with BC Talks here. So, if you've been following the channel for the past couple of videos, you know this past weekend I went up to New England on a little mini vacation of business and family. And while I was up there, I stopped at the Brimfield Flea Market, which is the United States' largest outdoor flea market. And I was definitely not prepared at all. It was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I was hunting for comic books there. I went originally because if you know the YouTuber Lunch Money Comics, if you watch me, you probably already know him. He's a pretty decent sized YouTuber on in the YouTube comic book space. And he was gonna be at a comic show that they were holding at the Brimfield Flea Market, but unfortunately they had to cancel it due to some inclement weather. The weather wasn't too bad; it was a little drizzly, but maybe they didn't have a tent. I'm not sure. But either way, they had to cancel that comic show. But I did scrounge around the flea market for some comic books, and there were a few vendors that had some comic books. I did pick up some from the flea market, but then I went down to Manchester, Connecticut, the Manchester, Connecticut area, to a comic book shop called A Hero's Legacy, which is closing its doors, unfortunately, at the end of the month, the end of September. And when I got there, I also learned of this comic book shop from watching Lunch Money Comics. So shout out Lunch Money Comics. The comic book shop, when I got there, they were doing a 60% off sale of all books over $6, and then anything $6 and under was $1 a piece. So I picked up, of course, as I always do, I picked up a giant box. You can see well over 100 comics. And from that shop, and then I picked up a few from a vendor at the Brimfield Flea Market as well. So we're going to go over everything I picked up in today's video. Before we get started, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. And make sure you check me out on Whatnot. I was recently made a verified seller on the platform, and a lot of the comic books you've seen in the past few hauls, I will be selling on there. So make sure you give me a follow. And if you use my link down in the description, and it's your first time signing up, you'll save $10 on your first purchase. And it doesn't just have to be with me, it can be with anybody on Whatnot. And if you're looking to buy comic books or any sort of collectible, definitely check out Whatnot. I purchased a lot of awesome books that I've showed off on the channel on there. And like I said, upcoming here soon, I will be selling a lot of the books that you've seen on the channel as well. So definitely check me out on Whatnot. By the way, if you've been watching the channel, you know I'm a big Star Wars fan as well. If any of y'all been watching Ahsoka, if you haven't, you definitely should check it out, especially if you're a prequels or Clone Wars Rebels era fan. It's definitely hidden. Dave Filoni is in his bag in this series, and he is not disappointing, especially the last couple episodes. And I'm really excited to see what they do with Thrawn upcoming, and possibly even Ezra if he shows up as well. They're probably going to save him for season 2 or a movie if I had to guess, but we definitely know at least Thrawn is showing up, and we should be seeing him here soon. So definitely check out Ahsoka if you're not watching it already. If you're new to the channel, from the past few hauls, there's been a lot of hauls on the channel, so you probably don't know that I also cover Star Wars, TV, movie news, pop culture, pretty much anything a pop nerd geek culture. My first video was actually of Star Wars Celebration on the channel, but there hasn't been a lot of movie and TV news because of the strike. The writers and actors guild strike. So I've been doing a lot of hauls lately, but once the strike is over, we'll definitely get back to all that. And I'm definitely doing a recap review of the Ahsoka series once it finishes. I did one of Mandalorian season 3 as well. You can check that on the channel. So I'll definitely be doing a review of Ahsoka once it's finished. But let's get into the haul today. The first books I have are from, like I said, a vendor at the Brimfield Flea Market. I was there for about 2 or 3 hours, scouring through different tents with vendors. It was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. This thing went down like at least a mile and a half of road filled with tents of all sorts of vendors selling antiques and whatnot. And there was a lot more than I thought that were selling comic books. But all these came from one guy, which is actually the first guy I saw. I can't remember his name. He was a pretty cool guy, but he had a bunch of comics. And I picked up a few from him. This first one, of course, we're going to start off with the romance. This is Love and Romance number 12 from Charlton Comics. I've talked about Charlton Comics on the channel a lot before. A lot of these romance that I've been finding are from Charlton Comics. Or DC, a lot of DC Silver Age has a romance as well. This one's not in the best condition, but I've said it before. The romance that I've been collecting is mostly readers' copies for me, and it was just 275. The romance books are hard to find, especially the older they get. Um, in good condition and for good prices. I was talking to the guy because he had a couple that were in worse condition. This was the best condition one, and he was talking to me. He said he in the '80s he was an older guy, probably I would say late '60s maybe. He said in the '80s he had a comic book shop and he sold a lot of his stuff back then. And he had a lot of romance books, and he said that he wished he had held on to those because he had back then he had sold them for like 25 cents, and he said he wished he had held on to those because now a lot of people are into collecting romance. And I was like, man, if I was not born then, I was born in 1994, so I didn't exist in the '80s. But if I was around, I would have took them all off him because y'all know, as I've said before on the channel, I'm looking for a plug for romance because it is really hard to find, especially in decent condition and at good prices. So yeah, that's some romance. I always start off with the romance. Now this one is interesting. This is Incredible Hulk number 347. And I didn't rebag and board these. So these, the bags and boards make them look a little bit worse for wear than they are. This one's actually in decent condition. Um, and if you don't know Hulk 347, this was the first appearance of the Hulk personality known as Joe Fixit. Also, the first appearance of Mario Chandler, the wife of Rick Jones, who later becomes the second Harpy. Now, obviously, the big key there is Joe Fixit. Joe Fixit is essentially a gangster variant of the Hulk. If you don't know Joe Fixit, he's a fan favorite amongst Hulk fans. Bruce Banner, a little bit of history on Joe Fixit. Bruce Banner didn't always have multiple personalities as the Hulk. Originally, it was just Banner and the Hulk. Banner would get angry and turn into a giant rampaging monster. And sometimes he would talk and go on wacky adventures. Actually, the first appearance of Rocky Raccoon was in a Hulk book, which is an interesting little tidbit if you didn't know that. The Hulk got into a lot of weird stuff in the Stan Lee era, but Stan Lee originally wanted the Hulk to be gray, in the likeness of classic monster characters like Frankenstein and whatnot. But there was coloring and printing errors at the time back then, so he came out like sometimes he was gray in the book, sometimes he was greenish, sometimes he was like a weird metallic color. So they just went with green because it was uniform and easier to print the green than the gray that Stan Lee wanted. But in the '80s, Peter David took over the Incredible Hulk series with issue number 331, which was 1987, and he made a lot of changes to the Hulk mythos. Basically, everything that most people know about the Hulk today came from the Peter David run. He wrote for Hulk for 12 years, so he is a pretty seminal figure in the Hulk mythos. Pretty much anything you know about the Hulk was created by Peter David's version of the Hulk series. And in one of his changes was giving Banner mental health disorders. He leaned in more and focused on the mental health disorders of Banner, including that multiple personality disorder, or DID as it's called now. In issue 331, so a few issues before this, he introduced the Gray Hulk back into the Hulk mythos. So he was just a talking, more intelligent, kind of weaker version of the Green Hulk, the regular Hulk. And then in this issue, 347, he introduced Joe Fixit, which was another personality of the Gray Hulk, who was kind of like a gangster, kind of like a Scorsese style 20s gangster, and kind of like Al Capone. And he gave him that personality. And Peter David also recently, this past year, earlier in the year, he wrote a little mini series about Joe Fixit called Joe Fixit. So he came back to the character he created in the '80s, and it was an interesting series. I didn't read the whole thing. I do have a few of the variant covers, though. I really like the covers for that series, but I did not read the whole thing, so I couldn't tell you how well written it was. But the covers were cool, and Joe Fixit is an interesting character. You never know; you might see him in the MCU. Um, but yeah, this is an interesting book, and it's worth around $10 to $20 depending on the condition. I might even clean, because Joe Fix is an interesting character. I might get this cleaned and pressed and slabbed. I have to flip through the comic to make sure there's no tears or anything. But it's despite the bag, the look of the bag, it's actually in pretty good condition. I'm not a grader. I don't have very much experience with grading books, so I couldn't tell you the exact condition. but if I had to guess, I'd say probably around 8. And I might be a little harsh because I'm not, um, a grader and whatnot. This next one is also a Hulk related book. This is Wolverine Battles the Hulk #1. Now this is kind of like a trade paperback. It's not really a comic. If you look and see, it's thick. You can see there. I'll turn it this way so you can see. It's kind of like a trade paperback. It's a reprint of Hulk 180 and 181. Now, if you're familiar with comics, 181 is the first appearance of Wolverine. That is a grail for a lot of people. That book goes for a lot of money. So it kind of tells the story of the battle of Hulk versus Wolverine. This is a reprint of that. It also has an article, Wolverine: The Evolution of a Character, which features text and art from different artists' sketches and takes on Wolverine. It's got like John Romita. It's got some Frank Miller sketches in there. So a really interesting kind of trade paperback type book there. Um, this next one is also an interesting one. Another first appearance, or technically second appearance. Depends. We'll talk about that. This one, the bag is also in a little bit worse shape. This guy had the bags were in not a good shape. This is Web of Spider-Man 24, which is the second cameo appearance of Eddie Brock. The guy who is Venom, and but it's a shadowy hand. Now, this is an interesting one because Eddie Brock, he has an interesting cameo history in comics. You could argue that this is his first cameo because his first official cameo was listed in Web of Spider-Man 18, so like 5 issues before this, which shows a pair of hands pushing Peter into the path of an oncoming train. However, at the time the issue was written, it was intended for the hands to be that of a woman. And if you look at the issue and the panel there where it happens, it does kind of look like feminine hands. And so it was intended to be a woman that was mad at Spider-Man because her family got into an accident due to they were kind of basically innocent bystanders in a battle that Spider-Man was in, and they got into an accident and died. So she was mad at him, so she was attempting to get revenge for her family and pushed him in front of a train. That was the original intent of that panel, but later they retconned it to be actually Eddie Brock pushing him in front of the train. And then in this issue, there's a lot of hand cameos. He's shadowy hand cameo in this one as well. So, depending on how you feel about cameos and first appearances, you could say that because that was a retcon, this is the actual first appearance of Eddie Brock, although this is just hands as well. But the technical first appearance, even though it's a retcon, is Web of Spider-Man 18. So I'll leave that to y'all to decide what you think the first cameo actually is. And then this last one that I got from the Brimfield Flea Market before we go over the Heroes Legacy books. This is Wolverine #59. This is it's not a key, but it's just a cool Terminator homage cover. I actually already own this, but I picked it up just because it was $2, and so I might resell it. But yeah, just a really cool Wolverine cover. And that's all the books that I got at the Brimfield Flea Market. So these next books are from a Heroes Legacy comic shop in the Manchester, Hartford, Connecticut area. Like I said earlier, they're closing their doors at the end of this month, unfortunately. They were having a 60% off all comics over $6, and then any comic that was $6 or under was $1. So, of course, I picked up giant box. I got them all kind of organized out there on the table. So we're gonna go through all them. I'm gonna go through the first books here that were the 60% off. Now this first one, I've talked about this before on the channel. I'm collecting the Giffen and DeMatteis run of Justice League from the late '80s to the mid '90s. And this is the very first issue. It's Justice League. It's of course came to be known as Justice League International #1. You can see Guy Gardner there. He's saying want to make something of it. I really like this cover. It kind of sets the tone for the series. And if you're not familiar with Justice League, by the way, the key for this, obviously aside from being the first issue, is that it is the first appearance of Maxwell Lord. And if you don't know Maxwell Lord, he did appear in the movies. In the second Wonder Woman movie, Wonder Woman 1984, he was played by everyone's favorite dad, Pedro Pascal. Now, if you're not familiar with the Giffen and DeMatteis Justice League run, Justice League International, America, and then there was also Europe and Antarctica, and a lot of different spin-offs and annuals as well. If you're not familiar with the run, basically it started post-Crisis. The It was kind of a surprising hit at the time. It was during a time when a lot of comics were going darker and more gritty and realistic. The late '80s to mid '90s gave us stuff like Spawn, Frank Miller's Batman, or Dark Knight, obviously. They gave us Venom, Carnage, Cable, characters like that were in the late '80s to mid '90s. This was kind of a more lighthearted, fun, jokey type of series. So it was very different than a lot of the comics that came out at that time. And this came out post-Crisis. It was May 1987, and of course, Crisis on Infinite Earths was mid '80s. I think it was '85. And if you're not familiar with Crisis on Infinite Earths, I've talked about this before on the channel, but it was a 11-part series that kind of cleaned up DC continuity. It was a mess before Crisis, pre-Crisis. Um, much like the DC movies right now, but kind of a lot worse. It was very hard for readers to know what was the continuity of a lot of characters. So, because there was a lot of multiverses and whatnot, so they basically killed off most of the multiverses and they condensed all the continuity down to Earth Prime, and then went from there. And then later messed it up again and had to have Infinite Crisis, and then a lot of Rebirth and Flashpoint, New 52. So they kind of messed it up. But for a while after Post Crisis, a lot of the series kind of established the characters the way that we know them today, and the Justice League series was one of those series that did that. It established Guy Gardner's character, Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, a lot of the characters in this series, Fire and Ice, their personalities were kind of established in this series the way we know them today. Also Lobo as well. Lobo in Omega Men 3 was which was his first appearance, was basically a one dimensional character, and then he appeared in issue 18 of Justice League International, and he was a much more fleshed out character. And he was kind of the personality that we know him as today, basically Jason Momoa. But the Justice League series, as you can see Batman, but not a lot of other big A-list heroes. That was because, obviously, as I said, post-Crisis, they were trying to clean up the continuity, so they didn't want to do a Justice League team up with the main Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman. Because they didn't want it to be confusing. They were trying to clean up the confusing continuity. So they gave Giffen and DeMatteis Batman, just so people would read it. But a lot of the rest of the characters were kind of B-list heroes. There was obviously Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, Black Canary, Mister Miracle, Oberon, Captain Marvel, Martian Manhunter, Blue Beetle, Ted Kord, Doctor Fate, and Maxwell Lord. And Maxwell Lord, he is a villain, but in this he was kind of more like an anti-hero, and he was the financer of the team as well. So he basically bankrolled the team. It was kind of like their PR and whatnot as well. So it's a really interesting run if you haven't read it, and I'm trying to collect the whole run. The international, the America, Europe, Antarctica, and all the annuals and whatnot. Basically everything that Giffen and DeMatteis plotted and wrote. Yeah, this is the very first issue, and it was $20, but of course it was 60% off, so I got it for $8. This next These next two that were over the $6 are they are the President's Drug Awareness Campaign versions of the New Teen Titans. So we got number 2 and number 3 here. Now, if you're not familiar with these, the Ronald Reagan in the '80s had his anti-drug, drug awareness, war on drugs campaign that he was doing.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
And so there are a lot of comics like this that are kind of like anti-drug comics from the '80s, the mid '80s, and these are two New Teen Titans versions. And as you'll know, I'm also collecting the Marv Wolfman run of New Teen Titans, and these were written by Marv Wolfman as well, and they're presented by corporations. You can see up there, it's the Keebler Company. They got the elf up there, and then this one's presented by IBM, the computer company. You can see it down there at the bottom. So yeah, I'm really interested as well in kind of like the propaganda type comics, and so those are a couple of those as well. And they're going to, so they'll be in the new Teen Titans run, which we'll go over here in a second. All right, so next up we have the Marv Wolfman Teen Titans. That's New Teen Titans Volume 1, Tales of the Teen Titans, and New Teen Titans Volume 2. And as you all know, I'm collecting the Marv Wolfman Teen Titans issues. They had a lot of the run as well as the Giffen and Demontage Justice League run. So basically, the rest of the haul is run filler for me with a few keys in there. A lot of it was picked. A lot of the store was picked, but when I saw they had these, I was like, I can basically almost complete my collection or get really close. So I had to pick them up. This first one is a key. It's New Teen Titans 16. It is a preview of Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew. Now, they're kind of like a jokey um, version of the Justice League on a different Earth, where they're all animals, and they are it's an interesting characters, and they're kind of like those jokey type of characters that I could see James Gunn doing in a in the DC, the new DC that he's doing. So you never know, but that's one that I didn't have. This is number 17, which is also a key. It's the first appearance of Francis Kane, and who later becomes Magenta. That's issue 17 of the first volume. Issue number 20 is the first appearance of the Disruptor, another key and one that I did not have. This next one is number 29, which is not a key, but a really interesting cover there. You can see Speedy going up against these floating heads villains. And I really like Speedy. He's an interesting character, especially in the Young Justice animated series, which, if you haven't seen that, definitely watch that if you're a fan of the Teen Titans and the Young Justice. This next one is 32, which is a key. It's the first appearance of and origin of Thunder and Lightning. Now, I do already own this, so I will probably, swap it out and then sell it. But that's an interesting issue there. Can't leave that for $1. This next one is issue number 33, which is not a key, but I've always thought it's an interesting cover. You can see him kind of floating there, and it's got them all looking into the reflection in the water. I've always thought that was an interesting cover. Um, this next one is 35. It's the first, this one's an interesting one. It's the first cameo appearance of Vigilante in costume. He's on one panel. Now, I do already own this, so I'll probably swap it out and sell it. But this is, Vigilante. He was the character played by Freddie Stroma in the Peacemaker series on HBO Max. And I really came to enjoy his portrayal of the character. And so I'm also collecting the Vigilante series as well. And this is the first appearance of Vigilante, who's a really interesting character in that Peacemaker show. Season 2 should be coming up here probably next year, I think. This next one is number 36, which is not a key, but a really interesting cover again. The new Teen Titans has some interesting covers. This next one is 37, which is not a key. It's also one that I already own. Or no, sorry, I picked up 2 copies. So I do have 2 copies of that, so I'll probably sell one. I got a little newsstand there. Um, this next one is number 38. It is the origin of Wonder Girl, Donna Troy. Um, and then we have Tales of the Teen Titans. This is a key. This is number 42. This is the first cameo appearance of Jericho, also known as Joseph, and the second cameo appearance of Adeline Wilson. Now, if you don't know Joseph or Jericho as his superhero name, he is Slade's estranged son. And it was also played by Chella Mann in the Titans HBO Max series, which was kind of overhated in my opinion. I actually like the Titans. I haven't watched the latest season, the last season, so I can't speak for that. But I came over time to appreciate um, the Titans HBO Max series. I especially liked Brenton Thwaites' version of Dick Grayson Nightwing. I like him a lot in that series. I feel like I definitely, if of all of them, I think he should return as that character. He did a really good job as Dick Grayson, in my opinion. Um, and that show, I think it gets a lot of hate, unnecessary hate. I think it's not great, obviously, but I think it's okay. Um, I think the best HBO Max show was Doom Patrol, obviously on, but I like that show. But I'm biased. I really like the Teen Titans, so I'll watch them in any version. This next one is number 45, which is not a key. Um, then we have 46, which is also not a key, but it's a cool cover there. With I think that's supposed to be Raven. Um, and then we have
No, get those lights off! Off!
one of the lights on that side went out on me. You know, I'm a procrastinator. I've been meaning to pick up a new one here. In the went out like last week. I've been meaning to pick up a new one, but I just never got around to doing it. Definitely gonna have to do that. So we'll do this with a nice little shadow on this side of my face. But as I was saying, this number 50 is a marriage of Wonder Girl and Terry Long. And I have a collection of marriage covers, so we'll be picking that, putting that one in that as well. This next one, number 51, is the first appearance of President Marlowe, who was a corrupt Middle Eastern leader who clashed with the Suicide Squad, and also the first cameo appearance of Azrael. And then number 52 is the first appearance of Azrael, the first full appearance. Now, this is not the Azrael who later becomes Batman. And if you played the Arkham Knight series or the Arkham series, the video game series, Azrael fights Batman in that series. He in the comics he also becomes Batman for a little bit. This is not that Azrael. It is a different one. But this next one is 52. Well, this is the second copy I got. Or wait, let me see. Yeah, no, that was 51. And oh yeah, so I had two copies. Sorry, I had two copies of 51. This is 52, the first appearance of Azrael here. And then we have Tales of the Teen Titans 59. This one is not a key, just some run filler. And then from the second volume of New Teen Titans, we have 23, which is a really cool Starfire cover there. I really like that cover. Starfire versus Blackfire. It's not a key though, but just a cool cover there and some run filler. And then the last one of the Teen Titans Marv Wolfman series is number 43. Just some more run filler. A really interesting cover there with Raven though. Um, but just some run filler, not a key there. All right, and these last few are part of the Giffen and DeMatteis run of Justice League International, which, as I said before, I'm collecting, and I'll be well on my way to finishing here after this big haul. This is a number 2, issue number 2. I showed y'all issue number 1 earlier. This one is the first appearance of the Gray Man, who is a servant of the Lords of Order, who can extract the dream essence from the living or the dead. And that's a newsstand. This next one's number 4. It's also a key and a little newsstand as well. It's also kind of an AO cover. We're looking through, his kind of thighs and cheeks there. Yeah, but the key is it's Booster Gold joins the Justice League, which, as you know, Booster Gold and Ted Kore's Blue Beetle would become good friends. That was established in this run. This is Justice League International number 7. The run. This is when the run would later would become known as Justice League International. So that's number 7. This is number 8, which is not a key, but it's got the two friends there, Ted Cord, Blue Beetle, and Booster Gold, getting up to some mischief. The covers on these, a lot of these covers I really like. Kind of shows you the personality of the characters. That one was not a key. Issue number 9 is also not a key. But it's some run filler. Issue number 10 is a key. It's the first appearance of Nort, who's a Green Lantern. He's kind of like a Dr. Seuss looking furry character, kind of like a joke character, who's a Green Lantern. It's interesting because a few weeks ago, DC released Nort's Swimsuit Edition, which was a comic that collected all the swimsuit covers from the past year, kind of in celebration of the summer. So kind of a topical issue there. And that one has the North Swimsuit Edition has a really awesome Adam Hughes cover as well that I picked up. Very good variant cover. There's a lot of Adam Hughes variant covers in this run as well, later in the run. But this is number 11, not a key, just some run filler. This is number 13, also not a key, just some run filler. This next one is a key, number 14. It is the first appearance of Magna Khan and Elron. I'm not too familiar with those characters. But this next one is 15. Also not a key, just some run filler. This one is an interesting cover, but not a key. That is number 17. Interesting cover there. Now they didn't have number 18, unfortunately, which is the first. The key of that issue is basically the first time Lobo becomes as we know him today. But this is the next issue, 19. It's basically a reverse of the cover of number 18, where Lobo is kind of holding Guy Gardner in this position. Now they're switched, and Guy Gardner's got Lobo in that position. So an interesting cover. But 18 is the key. They didn't have that. Like I said, it was kind of picked. Um, this next one is number 20. Um, and that's not a key, but if you've read the Mr. Miracle series from Tom King, it's kind of messed up. Then that series will come later, obviously. This was the what was it, 88, and that series was more in more modern times. The Tom King Mr. Miracle series. Tom King did a really good job. I recently reread that series. I forgot how good it was. If you haven't read the Tom King Mr. Miracle series, it's really good. I need to get the trade paperback. I got it from the library to reread it, but I need to buy the trade paperback, put it on the shelf. It's a really good series. This next one is issue number 21. You got another Booster Gold and Blue Beetle cover, and but it is not a key. This next one is 22, Justice League International 22, not a key. An interesting cover there. This next one is 23, which is a key. It is the first appearance of the Injustice League, which is Clock King, Big Sur, Multi-Man, Major Disaster, and Clue Master. You can see there it says the Injustice League. This next one is number 24, which is also a key. The first appearance of the first team appearance of Justice League Europe. Which would later go on to become, the name of one of this spin-off series there. And you can see Guy Gardner at the bottom. He's like, "Who let these guys in?" Because it's got the Justice League characters and whatnot. So that's funny. Um, I guess the series got more popular, so they let them come back. And then this is number 25, which is not a key. Then the next books we have here is Justice League America. And let me see. Yeah, Justice League America, which see here. The series would then go on to be retitled as Justice League America from Justice League International. All right, so these next ones are Justice League International or Justice League America. Sorry, the series would go from the title of Justice League International to Justice League America, and that was with this issue number. That was with issue number 26. Then this is number 29 here, which is not a key. This is number 30. This is an interesting cover, kind of like that Doc Ock cover. I wonder if that was supposed to be an homage to the Doc Ock cover. It's not a key, but it is interesting. And this is number 32, which is also not a key. This is number 33, which is also not a key. About an interesting cover there. Another interesting cover here, but not a key, is number 35. Now this next one is a key. It is the first appearance of Mr. Nebula, who is a parody of Galactus who decorates planets. Also the first appearance of the Scarlet Skier, the herald of Mr. Nebula. So an interesting kind of parody of Marvel's Galactus there in that issue. Like I said, it was a very kind of jokey, memey series, which is probably what drew me to the series. This next one is 37, which is not a key, but you can see Booster Gold and Ted Cord getting into trouble with Fire and Ice there, which Fire and Ice actually recently have a mini series that came out last week. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but I did read the preview that was in an issue before, and I really liked the preview. And I like those characters, so I'm definitely interested in reading that. But this is number 38. This is The Death of Steel. So that one is a key. This next one is number 39, which is not a key. a lot of these are not keys. This next one is number 40, which is not a key, but it says the death of Mr. Miracle there, or Mr. Miracle R.I.P., which again, if you've read the Mr. Miracle series, is interesting. This next one is 41, which is a funny cover, but not a key. This next one is 42. A lot of these covers are very cool looking, but they are not keys. This is 43. Again, a cool cover, but not a key. And this next one is 44. Not a key. This next one is not a key, but it is an interesting cover. It's an Adam Hughes cover. This is when there start being a lot of Adam Hughes covers of Guy Gardner kissing Ice there. Guy Gardner and Ice have a very interesting relationship, kind of like a toxic relationship. This next one's 47. That was an Adam Hughes cover. This next one's 47, which is not a key. This next one's 48. Again, not a key, but an interesting cover there. This one's 49. Not a key. This one is 51, which is also not a key. This one is 53, which is not a key. This one's interesting. It's 56. It's not a key, but it's kind of got Martian Manhunter overlooking what I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the Twin Towers there. This came out in the 90s, so they were still standing back then. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be the Twin Towers because the Justice League international team was very closely associated with the United Nations, which is headquarters are in New York City. So I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the Twin Towers. So an interesting cover there. The Twin Towers covers are always interesting. There's a few of them. And this next one is 70, which it is a key finally. It begins the Funeral of a Friend series, or Funeral for a Friend story arc. And a number of DC heroes gather wearing the same armband that was included with Superman number 75, which of course was the Death of Superman issue, that very famous issue. This next stack here is Justice League Europe. So again, not a lot of keys, but some run filler. We'll go through them quick here. This is number 1, which of course, like I said, any of the number 1s of these series were basically homages of that first one, number 1. This is Justice League Europe number 1. This is Justice League Europe number 2. And again, none of these are keys. I'll mention when there's a key, but a lot of them are not keys. Not a lot of keys in the Justice League Europe run. Number 3, but very interesting covers. And that's a newsstand. We got number 4. My stack's gonna fall over there. We got number 5, and a lot of these are newsstands as well. We got number 7, and my chair is cracking. We got number 8. A little newsy there. We got number 10. So yeah, we got number 11. This one's an interesting cover. And, I will be pretty much nearly completing these runs. So, I could not leave these there. I had to pick them up because I was like, man, I'm collecting the run. I can get it almost complete with these. 14 is not the key. 15 is the key. So this next one is the first team appearance of the Extremists, which was Gorgon, Dr. Diehard, Dreamslayer, Tracer, and Lord Havoc. So a little minor key there. Like I said, not very many big keys in the Europe run. Number 17. Number 18. We got number 19. We got number 20. I'm trying to make it so the stack over here doesn't fall over. And we got 21. 21. 21. We got number 22. Let's see, which is PETA's gonna get on the map for that cover. 30 years later. This is number 24. I wonder if PETA existed back then. When did PETA start? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Number 25. And none of the rest of these are keys, actually. There's only that one was a key. That's 26. 27. 28, but some interesting covers at least. Number 29. 29. We got 30. We got 31. 32. 35. And that is the Europe. And then these are from before, actually. I forgot to go over these as well. These are from Justice League America. I guess they were in the back of the stack by accident. But these first couple R keys, 26 is when, as I mentioned before, the title becomes America. It used to be International, and it became America. And then we have 27, which is an homage to The Exorcist. And then 28 is not a key, but an interesting cover with Guy Gardner and Ice there. Like I said, Guy Gardner and Ice, they gotta have like a toxic kind of relationship with each other. Um, and this, then we have some of the annuals here. The only key is this first one, which is Justice League International Annual number 3. This is the first appearance of Kui Kui Kui, who I'm not familiar with, but sounds like kind of like a jokey character. And then we have Justice League Annual number 2, International Annual number 2. And all these were Giffen and DeMatteis stories, so that's why I'm collecting them as well. This is Justice League Annual number 1. We also have Europe Annual number 1, Justice League Europe Annual number 1. And we have Justice League America Annual number 5. And to finish things off, we have Justice League Antarctica Annual number 4. All right, so over 100 books later, and after a couple lighting snafus, the haul is finally done. This is going to be a long video, but let me know down in the comments below what your favorite book that I picked up from this haul was. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk, and make sure you give me a follow on Whatnot. And if you're new to Whatnot and you've never signed up before, use my link down in the description to save $10 off your first purchase. And I will see y'all another day.